The dreaming kaleidoscope. The poet has said the dream enough times now to know that in a moment the credits will roll, the curtain will fall. It will end. He will wake up. No matter how hard he tries to cling to these final fleeting images, he will only be shown this much and no more. Fishing with the arid plains behind me, the dream voice says, the narrator, the fat man with his fishing pole. Meep! Oh, Goldie, he is gone. It was only a stupid harpsichord. Meep! And already the poet can smell the sea salt morning air getting into his rooms at the Hotel Ideal's door. And then it is over again. January 4, 1939. Roquebrune, France. My dear Lucien, the poet writes again, beginning the letter for the third or fourth time. It is my hope that, in time, this letter will find you, and that you are still well. And he stops then, stares out again at the sapphire sky, the stingy few high clouds above the sea, and William Yeats wishes he could feel as pure, as certain as that shade of blue. Wishes he could be certain he is not writing a letter to a man long since dead and in his grave. My own health is not what it once was, but I suppose that few things are. I ask you to forgive my long silence, all these years. Forgive an old Fenian. Those days, our time in Bedford Park, seemed to me 1,000 years ago, as I'm sure they must to you. Little more than 40 years, though the world has changed so that it can hardly believe it could ever have accommodated so much innocence. No, it was never as simple as innocence, was it? He pauses, holds the nib of his pen just above the page, knows that he's stalling, not wanting to commit what he remembers of the dream to ink and paper. Not wanting to make it that real, and knowing also that he will write these things, finally, that he's only wasting time. And there is so little time left to him. He does not have a young man's luxury of indecision. Lucien, I've been dreaming of you. Almost every night for a week now I have dreamed of you and of poor Christina and many other things I have not thought on for years, and of stranger things. It is as if all those visions I wished for in my youth, the revelations I hoped to find through the golden dawn and Methers and Stablevetsky have finally found me out. Now, when I am old and sick and do not have the strength for them. I have spoken of these things to no one yet, not even my wife, with whom I have shared many dreams. Do you recall that day in London, when we escorted your young lady to the Lumiere cinematograph in Leicester Square? That is where it always begins, Lucien, with you and Christina and me together at the cinematograph, the air thick, stinking of cigars and sweat. You're explaining to us the mechanism producing the images, and Christina is getting angry that you cannot simply appreciate the wonder of the thing. This is where the dream always begins. A claw movement, which drives the film through the projector gate and then... Honestly, Lucien, are you incapable of enjoying a thing without first dissecting it? Isn't it amazing enough without a lecture? Yes, I suppose you're right. My enthusiasm gets the better of me. It is amazing. Oh, Lucien, it is a marvel. How many more marvelous things can the world contain? Sometimes it seems we will exhaust it of every marvel within a single generation. And she goes on talking, Lucien, but I cannot look away from the screen. away from the strange man on the dock, the fat man and his odd little creature. The ship as it sails over the horizon and out of sight. And I hear someone speaking, reciting poetry behind me of what is past, or passing, or to come. And I think, why I wrote that, though I continue to stare, as if mesmerized, up at the cinematograph, and then I correct myself. No, I will write that. And the picture on the screen changes, and Christina says, "That is such an awful place. I don't want to see it any longer, Lucian." But I know I've never wanted to see anything so badly in my entire life. But the dream changes then, as dreams are wont to do, just when we think we are about to learn some true secrets. And I see that I am at Witchcross, outside the gates of Fawny Rig, that old wizard Burgess' lair. I am watching myself outside the gates. You never met Roderick Burgess, did you? That was long after you left London. I was only there once. Mr. Blavatsky never had a good word for the man, and he had made certain disparaging comments about the Golden Dawn. There were rumors that his Order of the Ancient Mysteries intended to capture and hold death itself, that Burgess was a man obsessed with immortality. There were many rumors about Roderick Burgess. I am getting away from the dream, aren't I? It is easier to talk of those old scandals than these present nightmares. I am as a Pern and a Geyer, and all of Burgess' evils and misdeeds around me. Sharp is howling to drag me down. And then I am falling, Lucian. I am being carried through a black tunnel on a drowning shaft of light, falling toward the blazing, brilliant sea. I will drown in light, I think. And then I am standing alone in some musty West End theater, and the only light comes from the screen and the restless images moving there. I even remember the film, Rescued from an Eagle's Nest, I think. The squalling child in the claws of a great dark bird, and I'm waiting for it to be rescued. When the picture changes again, returning to the fat man and the strange companion, I do not have a word to accurately describe the little beast to whom he is speaking. The man seems stricken with a terrible sadness, though. I think we have to let him go, Goldie. I don't think that we could stop Kane now. And then, as if to distract himself, the man begins to tell a story. The man does not stutter as he tells a story. Once upon a time, he says to the creature sitting on his knee, once upon a time, there was a black king who built a palace from the pure light of dreams. It was an age before nightmares, Goldie.
Hey, don't let me bother you, pal. I'll be out of here in a jiffy.
Wait, I'm looking for someone. A friend who was here a moment ago.
Is that so?
None of this makes sense to me.
Then, mister, you're asking the right fella. Sometimes I think I'm the only one that knows what round this loony bin.
And his palace sparkled and shimmered, as though it had been spun from gold, glass, and silver.
Jeez, Mary, they run that tired old thing again. I'd ask for my money back if I was you, Bob. You think they at least stick to talkies, for crying out loud?
But, my friend, his name is Lucian, and there's a girl with...
Oh yeah, I know, Luce. Sure, but he ain't much for the movies. Too busy with his books. And Luce was a girl? Maybe we're talking about two different fellas.
Maybe we are.
And, like I said, I'd ask for my 2 bits back. If you let him, fat boy upstairs gonna yam on like that all night long.
Well, thanks then.
Yep, no problemo.
Then, the scarecrow is gone. If it was a scarecrow, have searched some works on fairies, for anything with the semblance of that creature to no avail, and I'm alone again. When I look back to the screen, the fat man is gone as well, replaced by an old newsreel, Dublin, April 1916, the Easter Uprising, and I know that the film was never shot. I will not see this, I think. I will close my eyes and wake up. Will be a sick old man in France again, anything before these wretched tragedies. But I cannot even look away, Lucien. Behind me, there's a woman speaking, somewhere, reading aloud. It's my own poetry again, as if it too is a sin for which I must atone. We know their dream, enough to know they dreamed and are dead. I can shut out her voice no more than I can shut my eyes, no more than I can ignore those horrors on the screen. He too has been changed in his turn, transformed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. Oh God. There is not even time for me to grieve those awful pictures, those men and women lost because they still believed in a world where freedom was a possibility. A prize to be won with virtue and bravery. This dream does not pause for the dead. The wind is bitter cold and wild, and I am very afraid. And then I am watching Burgess, not the man himself, but an actor, and on the screen he looks as terrible as he always wanted the world to believe him to be. Think that the actor is German. And then no one need ever die again. And then I am watching myself, Lucien, as though I have become one of the actors in this frightful film. I am watching the man playing Burgess from the shadows. I am afraid that he will see me, that he will hear me breathing, will hear my heart racing in my chest. Then the fat man is talking again. Perhaps he has never stopped talking, and I'm only remembering that he's telling the story. So the evil magician had the book of spells at last, he says. It all moves so very fast, Lucien, and it doesn't seem to matter how terrified I am. I have to see, the way I couldn't look away from the newsreel. I have to know what the man playing Burgess is about. He thought that he could capture the older sister of the Black King so that he wouldn't have to die. Meep. The evil magician was very afraid of dying, Goldie. The real magic is never where we think. All those years that we scoffed at Roderick Burgess. This is the beginning of the end, I think, or the boy playing me in the film thinks. This is the beginning of the end of the world. From out my vein, and a feather I pulled from an angel's wing. Can you imagine what it feels like, knowing such a thing and lacking the courage to even try to stop it? I can only stand there, staring at a face behind the glass, that fierce, patient face, knowing that Burgess' failure is almost as terrible as if he had succeeded. Knowing that while Britain's young man died to stop the Kaiser, the world has already been lost in the cellar in Sussex. I am too afraid of Roderick Burgess to break the glass, and even though I know full well that this never happened to me, that I am only dreaming, I know also that I am a coward. The Black King was imprisoned for many, many years, even after the evil magician had passed away, and with its ruler gone, the kingdom that he had made grew dark and began to crumble. Like a beautiful garden deserted by its gardener, it began to wilt, to wither and die. And some of his subjects left the kingdom, but most of his stayed, waiting for their lord's return. Especially the two brothers that the Black King had placed in charge of guarding his most precious treasures, all his secrets and mysteries. They were the most loyal of all. Meep. Well, yes, almost the most loyal. Well, it's certainly a disappointment, Charles. I had better hopes for Mr. Capra after arsenic and old lace. Yes, dear, so did I. There was a bold fisherman who sailed out to. And what is that horrible little beast sitting on his shoulder? Dear, there are people trying to enjoy. Well, it's entirely disgusting, Charles. But the woman won't stop talking, and I know that she should. I have a sudden and inexplicable sense of dread that she's going to attract attention. Is it supposed to be a parrot? It doesn't look at all like a parrot. Excuse me, madam, but I really have to insist that you shut the fuck up. Some of us actually need to know what happens next. Ah! What about it, Billy boy? You up to seeing the rest of this picture? Or are you just gonna keep distracting yourself with the likes of her? I know you. Miss Zelda Thorne's party at Tappas Court. Maybe you better keep your eyes on the screen, Billy. It really would be safer that way. But it was him, Lucien. He called himself the Risen Death and went about with Oscar Wilde. You must have met him. A peculiar, unpleasant man. I detested his paintings. My dream changes again, and I'm watching you. There's a large black bird with you. A raven, I think. I don't think that I can watch this any longer, Jessamy. She's killing herself as surely as if she were drinking Stricken.
Christina's life is her own. You cannot blame yourself for how she chooses to live, or for the way she chooses to end.
I can't accept that, and I won't believe that I am helpless, or that I have no responsibility for her. What good has any of this been if I cannot save one woman from herself?
We've finished here. We've done the work Lord Shaper sent us to do, and soon we will have to return to him.
No, I cannot simply leave her to die. I love her, Jessamy. God help me, but I do.
Then I am sorry, Lucien.
She was a good and beautiful girl, Lucien, and I hope you can forgive me if I've opened old wounds by writing of her here, but I feel compelled to tell it all. All of the dream I can remember, these strange scenes that come apart, that roll together and melt like mercury. And finally the Black King had restored the semblance of his kingdom, had recovered those lost parts of himself. But too late he would learn that it was only the semblance of his realm that had been restored, that some vital part of his self had been lost during his captivity.
Eep!
What?
Eep!
No, Goldie, I don't see Lucien. No, pay attention. Where was I?
Eep!
Yes. A vital part of himself, the part that kept his land healthy and sane. And as the years passed, the Black King grew ever weaker and ever more preoccupied with his family and the painful misadventures of his people. Yes, that was after you were hatched. And here I begin to recognize the stories that the fat man's telling. Though he has simplified it so that it might pass easily for a child's nursery rhyme, Osiris, Attis, Orpheus, Arthur. No, I'm afraid it doesn't have a very happy ending. I'm not sure it has an ending at all. Well, yes, me too. I like stories with happy endings the best too. Because this is a true story, Goldie. So I don't have any say in the way it ends. Sometimes we have to tell stories even if they aren't the kind of stories that we like to tell. And sometimes we have to listen. Suddenly, my skin is burning, and when I look up, I realize I am no longer in the cinema. I know that he is speaking to me, then, that he has been speaking to me all along, and that swollen, dying sun hangs above me, like a guilty verdict, a judgment for a life of inaction and indecision. And very clearly, Lucian, I hear woman, Christina reciting Tennyson. I am not worthy of the quest, but even while I drank the brook and ate the goodly apples, all these things at once fell into dust, and I was left alone. Alone and thirsting, in a land of sand and thorns. Christina! Please, no more of this. Beep! No, it's not over yet. There's just a bit left to tell. After the witches were done, when the Black King was finally dead and his land lay in ruins, a new king came. A white king, Daniel. A white king, young and strong enough to heal 100,000 years of harm, to lead his realm into a new age of light and beautiful sweet dreams. No, that's not the end either. Because the people who lived in the kingdom continued to be unhappy and the bad things didn't stop, because they had been hurt too much, because they were very old and very sad. The White King couldn't heal the land, since the land didn't really believe it could be healed. And so there were more nightmares than ever before, and finally there was a terrible fire. Mere anarchy it loosed upon the world. Mere anarchy. Then we're in London again, Lucian, in your old flat in Chelsea. Your rooms on King's Road, that last rainy day of March 1897, the last time I saw you before the funeral. And of all the terrible things that I've been forced to witness, this is the worst, the very worst. This is the black heart of my dream, I know, the excess of all these sore recollections and phantasms. Yes, it would be entirely disastrous if I were to delay my departure by even another day. My employer expects punctuality. Of course. I beg you, Lucian, as a friend, you cannot save this girl. Do not drag yourself down trying. Are you not also Christina's friend? Have you turned your back on her, and now you ask me to do the same because she is weak, because she is sick? You've asked my advice, and I've given it to you. I won't argue with you because it wasn't that you wanted to hear. I can't make this decision for you. It's been so long since. You wouldn't believe me, you couldn't, Bill, if I told you you'd pack me off to a sanitarium. How can I go? How can I even think of abandoning her? I glance up then, because I cannot bear to see you cry, and that damned blackbird is watching me. I can hear the rain falling. And then the kaleidoscope turns again, sweeping you away and the world with you, and the dream has become so familiar that I know it's almost done. A few more scenes for the night, but nothing more of you or Christina, or Roderick Burgess or the Easter Rising, nothing more but the strange things one sees in dreams. Weep. A cryptic handful of images left before I wake, before the curtain in the dream theater falls and the house lights come up. And I know that my conviction, that I've written this letter to you as an apology, is a lie. I've written a confession, and perhaps an exorcism, that I might not have this dream again. I know also that you will never read these words. And there's a terrible loneliness in that certainty, but a comfort as well. At least in easing an old man's conscience, I will not have caused you further pain. And if I am wrong, I pray that you will forgive me my weaknesses, as I should have forgiven Christina hers. Yours ever. There, he thinks. I've put you to paper. I've bound you. But outside there's a restless winter dry wind of the Mediterranean, and nothing he's written stops the chill he feels as a sort of night, a sort of sleep. You've bound nothing, old man. The poet does not contradict the voice in his head, has learned better than to argue. The solace of electricity is simpler. He reads the letter once, and waits until it is completely dark outside before he tears it up.